And we're live. Okay.
Yeah, now we got Mike
All right.
working.
Thanks, Mike. Yep. Right. So I think, Jeff, you could go ahead now.
Just pardon me, I'm responding to the one viewer who was having trouble.
I did label this for the record. I did label this part 2. So the
Okay.
same way with part 2 for the live stream people.
Oh, yeah. Looks like we've lost that one viewer.
Yeah, he contacted me, so I'm asking him to log back in.
Good.
Excuse me. So agenda item number 314 through 36 West 3rd Street. The building description, period, style, and defining features. This proposed 8-story hotel structure will include a series of entry-level glass storefronts with awnings at the front or north facade facing West 3rd Street, and also at the rear or south facade facing the Greenway. 6 upper floor levels will include brick facades punctuated by sets of windows organized according to hotel room layouts. A rooftop terrace with a bar will complete the uppermost floor level, while a single-story porte cochere or a carport at the western end of the site will serve as the main drop-off location for passenger vehicles. As a reminder, the HCC is mandated with preserving structures dating from the designated era of the Historic Conservation District, which dates from circa 1895 until 1950. Thus, when completed, this contemporary building will not be considered significant to the district. Proposed alterations, the applicant is returning for subsequent HCC assessments of various details associated with the proposed historic structure. It's not a significant historic structure, so there are no Secretary of Interior standards associated with my assessment. So my assessment is based on the ordinance that Mr. Lader read at the beginning of tonight's meeting, as well as relevant design guidelines within the district. And I'll just quote a key portion. Relevant sections concerning new construction. For reference, those are pages 8 through 12 within those guidelines. The HCC encourages new construction that preserves the cohesive ambiance of the historic conservation district with compatible, sympathetic, and contemporary construction matching the setbacks of adjacent buildings on a streetscape, and has compatible siding, proportion, size and scale, form, materials, roof configurations, details, and finishes, end quote. It also should address such concerns as shape and massing, rhythm and patterns, window and door openings, materials and textures, architectural details, as well as streetscapes. And because they do propose storefronts, we have specific guidelines for storefronts that I also referenced. My evaluation, the effects on the district and recommendations. The certificate of appropriateness application indicates the intent to satisfy a stipulation of the previous certificate of appropriateness that requires HC assessment of proposed facade details. According to the application supplemental narrative, select details intended for the current assessment include entry-level storefronts, as well as building facade materials. They include brick, large format masonry, cast stone elements, and EIFS. The applicant is also requesting the HCC to yet again consider an increase in building height that was discussed at previous meetings and defined within resulting certificates of appropriateness. So I'm going to start with them in reverse order. The applicant previously confirmed the height of the revised design was 96 feet. I'm not talking about currently, I'm talking about what we saw previously. That represented a significant change to the quote 88 feet height mixed-use development project, end quote, that was approved by City Council when they decided to overrule the HCC recommendation to deny the proposed project. The applicant justified the need to extend the height above the previously approved 88 feet height to accommodate the proposed rooftop bar, which necessitates extending 2 stair towers up to 96 feet to accommodate the required emergency egress. The corner tower element was also raised to 96 feet as a screen for rooftop mechanical systems. Following HCC's discussion with the applicant on October the 21st, 2024, HCC amended the building height maximum from 88 feet to 90 feet within the resulting resolution. And that resolution went to City Council and was approved and resulted into a certificate of appropriateness. The applicant's current design proposal indicates the top of the parapet at the western tower now measures 94 feet 11 inches, which is just shy of 5 feet taller than was previously approved, which was yet already a revision to the original building height. In addition, the overall height of the rooftop bar now measures 100 feet high, which is 10 feet taller than was approved to the revision at your last meeting. And I would like to point out is 3 feet taller than the existing adjacent contemporary structure. I know that's a lot to think about. So discussion is definitely warranted. So no matter what happens, if the HCC recommends revising the height, we do need that captured in the motion because that needs to go to City Council to reflect a third revision now to the building heights. So the original, as a reminder, was a different applicant, was limited to 88 feet. The previous meeting was raised to 90 feet. And now they're requesting to have two different heights. One is 94 feet 11, and another is 100 feet. So beyond the height differentials, the application also includes supplemental drawing sheets, and I focus mostly on sheets A303, A304, and A401. Those provide wall sections and details of select items intended for the current assessment. Excuse me. So it's a little bit of a balancing act because those sheets have other details that are not mentioned in the narrative. For example, windows, signage, awnings, things like that. But when I go back to the narrative, it determines what we're discussing tonight. So even though windows, awnings, etc. are depicted in some of those details, we're not discussing those. So we are discussing what I referenced in my introduction. That would be the storefronts, the brick proposed, the large format masonry, the cast stone elements, and the ephes. So the proposed storefront is a YKK YES 45 storefront system, and we've seen that in previous applications for contemporary structures. It's not new to us. With a 2-inch vertical and horizontal divisions in a dark bronze finish, as well as SunGuard SNX Low E crystal gray glazing. That is something new, and I'm requesting they clarify what they mean by that. So the applicant should confirm that the glazing is, first of all, appropriately center set within the frame rather than deep set. Contemporary storefronts, often they'll push the glazing either flush to the front or flush to the back. Our guidelines encourage center set. I think in the detail it showed that, but I need confirmation. Also, the relevant design guidelines identify glazing as clear and not tinted, colored, or reflective. So I wasn't sure with the comment crystal gray glazing if that conforms with the guidelines that say all glazing is clear, not tinted, colored, or reflective. Drawing sheet A401 includes mention of spandrel glass with, quote, integrated artistic film, end quote, along with several references to storefront artwork. These items are in response to HCC's previous concerns about large expanses of spandrel glass within many of the storefront segments along the front or the north facade facing West 3rd Street. The accompanying elevation drawings on drawing sheet A201 imply proposed spandrel glass by using a different color than the transparent glazing. I would ask for our motion, we be specific, in which ultimately which storefronts receive spandrel. But ultimately, it's the HCC's decision is to determine the appropriateness of these suggestions. Supplemental drawing sheets indicate Glengarry modular Rockbridge brick units intended for upper level facades. There was no indication of the sizes or mortar joints, etc. It's possible they have samples to present to you tonight. So my recommendation is, in your discussion with the applicant, we just need to be a bit more specific about this so we can integrate those details in the resulting motion. But overall, brick is considered an appropriate material within the district.
Mhm.
Supplemental drawing sheets indicate 4-inch thick rock cast smooth face masonry veneer. And I think it's a typo. It says 12 feet by 24 inch, but I'm assuming they mean 12 inch by 24 inch format based on the depiction of the facades, intended for the entry level facade. The proposed colors include two colors. One is called Smokehouse for the darker color elements, and one is called Crystal White for the lighter color elements. Yet again, a cut sheet or a specification and ideally a sample would be great so we can integrate those specifics into the resolution. So discussion is warranted. First, to confirm the format size. Again, I think it's just a typo, the 12 feet versus 12 inch. And I didn't see any mention of mortar joints. So yet again, we would just be curious what kind of joints they would be proposing for these larger format pieces. Supplemental drawings also depict cast stone sills at 7 5/8 inches high and lintels at 8 inches high for the upper level windows. The associated elevation drawings indicate cast sills and lintels appropriately extend beyond the masonry openings. The details do depict a horizontal cast stone band at 28 inches high that delineates the entry level from the second floor level and concurrently serves as a lintel above the storefront. So it's one contiguous band between the first and second floors that also also serves as a lintel above the storefronts. The detailed drawings depict a similar horizontal cast stone band at 11 inches high that delineates the change of material at the upper level facades. So there's a change occasionally from brick to, I think, the ephes. There seems to be a cast detail at that point. And then there also seems to be similar but smaller horizontal cast stone bands depicted on the elevations, but I couldn't find a detail. So yet again, for the motion, it would just be nice to capture where those kind of secondary or tertiary horizontal bands are so I can at least indicate some indication. And maybe they're brick. I'm not really sure. It's possible they're not cast. Maybe they're just a delineation in the brick. So either way, just a quick discussion with the applicant so I can include that in the resolution. The supplemental detail drawings also depict the exterior insulation finish system, or EIFS, as the proposed cladding for select upper facade elements, and also for the uppermost cornice. The relevant design guidelines indicate EIFS is inappropriate within the Historic Conservation District. We had this discussion with the applicant previously. The HCC previously expressed concern about the proposed EIFS as a facade treatment and recommended either cast stone, a true stucco, or even a fiber cement or potentially aluminum panels as an appropriate alternative. The resulting motion stated that the applicant agreed to present alternatives to EIFS at a subsequent meeting. So I'm curious if they perhaps explored those options and are now coming back to say we explored them and we still stand by EIFS. Just wasn't clear.
Mhm.
And then finally, I mentioned some of the details show things that were not in the narrative. And my assumption is they'll be coming back for those. It's not a complete list, but they would include such things as the fabric awnings, the window type or types, elements of the porte cochere, signage, exterior lighting, those kinds of things. So my assumption is we'll be seeing them in the near future as well.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Okay, so, please feel free to go over with us, everything that Jeff commented on.
Yeah, I appreciate the thorough summary that Jeff provided, and I think he accurately, as he does, characterized what we're here tonight to present to you and hopefully get a recommendation for approval on. When we were last with you, we were just beginning schematic design, hadn't really launched that effort yet, but sort of that transition period between conceptual and schematic. When we came to you before, knowing what we had to develop in the way of the elevations to get an approval, we stepped ahead with that, and I think we've stayed true to it. So we really hadn't started design. Now we're 50% through, and that has changed aspects of the approval that we're coming back to request additional consideration on, including the building height. We just did not have a sufficient structural design, mechanical design to be able to accurately project that height of that stair tower, what felt sort of right and close to being achievable or being achievable in the meeting. 50% later, 50% of documents later is going to need to be adjusted. So that's really the story about the stair tower. We have John Snavely here from Greenfield Architects, our architectural affiliate. He can give you a little more detail on that, but that's really the story. In terms of building height, I know Jeff mentioned the 100 feet for the rooftop element. We feel pretty good about the direction that rooftop element and rooftop bar is going. We're excited about it. When I say rooftop element, I mean our rooftop venue. I think it's important to note, we talked a little bit about this Tempo brand, which is kind of Hilton's analog to its upper scale select service AC. There are not too many of them in the US, but the ones that have rolled out, the ones that have been approved, all have a rooftop bar or rooftop venue of some kind. So we think it's appropriate here. We've done our market research on it. We've done our homework on it, and we think it's got potential. So it's always was stepped back, and I think that was an important consideration for this commission. So yes, it's 100 feet, but it's not 100 feet visible from the street level. It's stepped back. I think that was important, and it needs to be at that 100-foot level. We can review that a little bit more. The 97, I'm sorry, the 90, you're going to have to.
9411.
Yeah, 9411. Thank you. And John, you might as well get up, get to the podium, and we can start getting through the detail. But the 9411, I think, is important to note, is still 2+ feet shorter than the existing neighboring building next to it. So, yes, we're going up from the approval from October, or the recommendation from October, but it's still shorter than the building next to it. So we feel it's context appropriate. And again, based on where we stand in the design process, I think we proved out that's where it needs to be. So why don't we try to take these one step at a time, and let's start with the stair tower and the height.
I agree. Yeah,
and why we arrived
we can
there.
talk about the building height. So the way we arrived at that 94-foot 11 height. I mean, I know the last time we were in front of you, I know 90 feet was on the certificate of appropriateness, and we were working our best to get down to that height or as close to that as we could. When we started to look at our structural system, the required ceiling heights by the Tempo standard, that has led us to where we're at now. We have that corner element is in line with the stair towers, the two stair towers that I know they aren't prominent on the 3rd Street facade, but they are on the Greenway side. And we felt that that front tower element needed to align with those heights. So that's how we got to the 94 foot 11 height. I mean, we did look at bringing it down a little bit, but then the scale of that corner element is lost. We don't feel the full effects are there unless we are matching the stair tower heights. So that's how we've gotten to that height there of that 94 foot 11. Like Tony said, and Jeff noted in the narrative, we do feel good about that height compared to the adjacent building. We are still 2.5 feet below the high point of that building. So we are trying to honor the scale of that street.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yep.
On the structural system?
Sure.
Often these kind of buildings are done with I think it's called a precast slab or,
Yep.
And they're just dropped into place and it forms your finished ceiling and your floor and you really get very minimal structure. On this, it looks like you're doing a drop ceiling.
So we're using a Hambro system. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's a composite steel and concrete system. So it's steel joists with a composite concrete floor that's tied into the top web of the steel joists. So some of the reason we decided to go with that system kind of came down to cost, economy of scale, and it felt appropriate. We did study other systems. You are correct. Most hotels do go with the precast plank system, but given the uniqueness of this property, that's kind of where we landed on that.
Yeah,
structure system.
I was going to say, I can understand that. You got this triangular shape. So I was guessing that probably came into play.
Yeah.
And what's the brand dictated ceiling height?
9 feet.
Guest
Guest
level.
room is
Yeah.
9 feet. Yes, on the guest floors, and our ceiling is at the the underside of that Hambro structural system.
That's 20 inches deep.
No, should be. I think it's 16 inches deep. Because we're 10'8" floor to floor on the guest room levels. So the slab itself is 4 inches.
Got it.
As well.
The parapets look kind of tall too. I was wondering why, like I see one section that's 5'8" tall. What was driving that?
So our rooftop level, excuse me, our rooftop level, we're doing a pedestal paver system up there for the outdoor seating area. So we need, taking into account the roof insulation, slopes, all that stuff. So we're about 2 feet above the roof level there with that outdoor paving system. And I should say the parapets, especially at the outdoor rooftop venue, are still slightly in flux. We're entertaining glass railing system there and trying to refine that height, so they may come down slightly.
Yes. There will be a view that all can enjoy.
At that center section that you're going up to 100 feet.
Yes.
Is part of that with parapets, and I'm also wondering where you're keeping all the rooftop equipment.
So the rooftop equipment would actually be trying to find a good plan to look at. I think if you look at the roof plan, A105. So the stair tower 1 that you see on the left-hand side of the plan, most of our larger rooftop equipment would be tucked into that corner next to that stair tower, in between the stair tower and the corner element. And we would have some other equipment on the east side of the building. We don't know exact locations, but probably south of the exterior exit pathway. And to answer your question about a parapet on the dining, rooftop venue roof, there is a small parapet there just to make up for the slope of the roof, but it's not, we're not doing a 42-inch high parapet there or anything like that.
The exit path there, is that standard traffic or is that only for an emergency egress?
That would only be emergency egress.
Because it goes to the back, just because it goes to the south stair tower there.
Yes. Yeah, that's our second means of egress out of that space.
So if you did you mentioned a glass railing, if you did that, where would it be?
So we would lower a section of the parapet at the 3rd Street side.
That's
where the
really a
outdoor
part of
seating
the ID's design, the interior designer's concept that we're continuing to refine with
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
for the rooftop. So you're seeing a little bit of a blank slate. This is maybe a generation ago. We've
Right.
moved beyond this, but we're refining it, and that's absolutely in play.
So if you did that, would you lower the parapet all along 3rd Street or just at the roof deck?
I think we're still studying that.
Okay,
And
that's
once we
fair.
determine
Big
what's
point.
the appropriate height for that glass railing and what does that want to be,
Right.
and how does that fit
Right.
in with the rest of the facade?
So it also looks to me like you have about a 3-foot parapet on the rooftop bar element. If you're following what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Your roof looks like it's at 97 feet. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep, upper roof 97 feet, and then you have.
Yeah, and I think we're still working through what the height of that parapet wants to be. So I think there is some availability
Fair
to
enough.
pull that down.
Yeah.
And- But you have a kitchen up there, right?
We do.
So
we
you're
do.
going to
So
have
there'll be
exhaust
some
fans and
hoods
all
and-
kinds of unsightly stuff you want to hide, right?
Right.
We want to screen that.
Although at that height, you're never going to see it from the ground, regardless of what kind of parapet you have. Just saying.
There's going to be some, yeah, understood.
On the south elevation, would you consider at the very least doing a setback for that uppermost portion that's now at 100 feet? I mean, can you make the top of the coping that you have at 9411 continuous and then just set back that tallest part? Just I think that would help if you could set it back several feet.
And I know it's not set back the whole way, but it does start to set back at that corner. So on that south elevation,
Yeah.
it's not a completely flat elevation. It actually turns back. If you look at the key plan next to it, you can see that darker, heavier line that heads to the east. So the
Yeah.
Oh,
the
so
high,
this part actually
Yeah.
is set back.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm sorry. I think I missed that last time
No,
too.
but that's a good observation, Gary.
16 feet.
I was thinking to even continue that cornice line.
Mhm.
This part here is set back.
Yeah. So he's pointing to this.
Going straight across.
Yeah, it's already set.
Oh,
back.
I got you.
It's tucked in there. It's set back from the greenway.
yeah. So our stair tower is kind of at the corner at that point where it starts to turn. So and that is at the 9411 feet, and then it does go back. The length of that stair tower before it steps up. So it's stepped back a little bit there.
Have you worked to minimize the height of the stair towers by managing the height of the parapet on those?
So, yes, I mean we've worked to get the height of those stair towers down as much as we could. We do have a slight parapet there. I'm trying to see
And
if
I'm
we
assuming
actually
you're
call out
sloping
that
that
height,
you're
but-
sloping that roof to
Right.
from high to low, all the way across the stairs. So that's kind of dictating your parapet height.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not like we have a 3.5 foot
Right.
parapet there. It's the height is really dictated by the high point of the roof.
In other words, it probably goes from 6 inches plus minus at the high point of the roof to whatever it needs to be. So you have a uniform level cap, right, for your cornice.
Yep.
Any other questions about the height as we're paging through?
John, why don't we go through just
Sure.
quickly summarize the other points that we're looking for approval on tonight, just how we got there, what other work
Sure.
we did. I think we can do a quick walk through that.
So the other, 2 items that we're looking at would be the treatment of the ground level storefront on 3rd Street, specifically how we're handling that section that is at some of the back of house spaces. So we have the kitchen that serves the 1st floor. Restaurant is along that side. That would be the area you see on the north elevation, shaded in the blue color. So what we are proposing there would be spandrel glass with a film over top of it that would depict, would celebrate the history of Bethlehem and would tie into some of the themes that we have going on inside the hotel, which are playing up the history of Bethlehem as well.
Where's the film placed? Like which face?
It would be on the exterior face of the.
Yeah, I think we'd have to have that placed on the 4th face of the glass. So an interior
Okay.
application. It's going to get scratched, damaged, beat up if it's
Okay.
on the exterior. It's just my sense.
No, I agree with that.
And given that this is the Southside Arts District, I would encourage you to, instead of applying graphics that represent the history of Bethlehem, work with the Southside Arts Commission on the graphics for those windows. Just encouraging. Not saying that's what you have to do.
Understood.
Is this going to be applied to all the windows on the third street side?
Now,
No,
why don't you
we just-
clarify that exactly?
Yeah, it would just be the ones that are shaded
Yeah.
blue on that elevation. So it's roughly 1, 2,
Okay.
3.25 sections of the storefront there.
So, let me ask this. Is it really the worst thing to have a public view into your prep room area with all the chefs working on things?
It's not a show kitchen. It's just not. Yeah, it's really, that kitchen's very defined by Hilton. It's laid out precisely. It was a challenge to lay it out in here, but it would not lend itself to a show kitchen. I'd love to do it, but done it in Lancaster. But yeah, I think we can get very tasteful. Everyone wants a good look here. This is the ground level. This is where folks are going to pass, and we'd love to get foot traffic here. We've designed a bar that is a real enhancement over Tempo standards, which is already a nice bar, but we feel we're going to have a really nice presentation in this lobby. So we want it to look right. And we had a great meeting with the folks across the street from us, I want to say Banana Factory, but the
Probably
Arts
Arts
Quest.
Quest.
yeah, the Arts Quest. Great meeting with them. Impressive organization, really impressive. And they gave us some good feedback, and that's sort of what led to. In fact, they offered to look in their archives for photos that could be appealing here, and renderings that could be appealing. And
Great.
we thought that's a great partnership. We really look forward to having a great partnership with them.
Sounds good.
Is there any chance that you would anticipate coming back with another need for elevation approval?
I think we're,
Yes, so we would, our next, iteration here, the only exterior elevation items we would, hope to
yeah, I'm
discuss
sorry. I'm sorry.
would
yes.
be the window units for the upper floors.
I think Jeff
um,
captured
the,
those.
the
yeah.
awnings and
For sure.
the entry canopies, the portico share, but the adjustments to the height or the main, facade materials we're hoping
Main
to
facade elements,
capture
we
to-
don't see that.
Yeah, we don't see any adjustments.
Because one of the major pushbacks that we get as a commission from community members has to do with building height. And, we've gone at this a couple times with differing heights, and I understand that your situation has changed as you work through it. But that,
I don't intend to come back here to
Yeah,
revisit.
I mean,
this.
at this point, we feel pretty confident that those.
because we'd have a
floor
hard
heights
time
are set.
selling more height.
I understand.
Yep.
I understand. I understand. I think the only thing that would change that is if, for whatever reason, the rooftop wasn't pursued. Clearly, that affects everything that's programmed up there. But as we said, we think it's a great enhancement for the hotel, for the community, and we want to pull it off.
How much is it set back? How much is that?
How much is it set?
That
It's,
setback
it's a
from-
good.
It's 16 feet
Yeah, so if
from
you-
the 3rd Street side. There's 16 feet of depth to the start of the exterior wall for the interior seating. So there's 16 feet of exterior seating there on that side.
So in your image on the cover page, I'm seeing some what look to be like walls that are perpendicular to the face of the 3rd Street facade. Is that just like your structural model that's
So
not hidden in that view, or what are those?
I think that was depicting a trellis system on that rooftop venue, which at this point I don't believe we're pursuing. But
It may be a little more dense when it's printed at this.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I don't foresee a trellis.
Right.
I'm not sure the date of this rendering, John, but
yeah, I would say this was probably October, November.
I mean, that's just the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just for the good of conversation here, I can get my head around another couple of feet on the interior bar area because it's not perceived from the street whatsoever. But when you start to approach that facade on 3rd Street, now we're going to start to feel that additional height. So if you're telling me we're going to stick to 16 feet back and we can go to, whatever it is, 100 feet on here, then I'm comfortable with that. As long as you don't come back to me and say, we're back to this board and say, I need another 3 feet of height and we need to be 12, or closer than 16 feet to that facade. I think this is our ultimate line in the sand here.
understood.
If that, I'm speaking as one person on this commission, but
Or two.
yeah.
Understood. I have no desire to, understood.
And then what's Jeff, I'm sorry, you did say what the height of the stair towers was previously. Was that 90 and now we're at 95 plus minus?
No, I believe it was 96.
Original was 88.
The
That
appro-
was revised to 96.
Okay, so we're actually looking at a reduction in height of the stair towers.
Excuse me. They came to you with 96, but then you had a conversation with them, and all parties mutually agreed to 90.
But
So the 90 feet was captured in the
Thank the
motion and
previous
the
submission.
certificate.
Okay.
Yeah.
96, you said now?
Yeah, 95.
94, 11.
94, 11.
Yeah.
That's the perils of coming in at the conceptual stage, right? Just
So if I'm looking at building sections 1 and 2 on A301, I'm seeing what is a sizable parapet on the two stair tower elements. Can you tell us what those are? You know, we talked about a little bit about roof slopes previously, but on building section 1, you know, it looks like it's at least 2 feet of parapet over that end element.
Yeah, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
just. Yeah, I believe when we were looking at the scale of and the height of that element as well as the signage that would be on the front, we felt like that was the height that we needed for the top of that parapet to be at. So you're right. There is, you know, probably 2.5 feet there from the high point of that roof at the corner element.
And then similarly on section 2, you know, I'm seeing what looks like, you know, 18 inches to 2 feet on that as well.
Right, and that was to you know, to match the height of that other
Okay.
element. Yep.
So we're not talking about needing another couple of feet on the stairs strictly for the stair clearance. We're talking about needing it for signage. Is my reading between the lines there?
Correct. Yes. The height that we're at, that 9411, to give us the signage that you see on that elevation or that rendering on the cover as well. I don't know if we show it on any of the elevations. Yeah, we show it on elevation 3 on 202.
What was that last elevation, was it?
Elevation 3 on A202.
So it looks like that very topmost coping on the corner, you're kind of simplifying, or at least cutting it back a bit. I mean, it looks like you have something much more massive on the rendering than you're showing in the sections.
Correct. Yes, we've scaled that back.
Yeah, I'm okay on that part. I guess I'm just wondering about the height. Well, you know, there's a bunch of different things I think you need us to talk about. I wonder if we could put the height part aside and,
Sure.
and look at your finishes. So I'll pass those around.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, so I see 3 different mortar samples. Are you looking for direction on that?
No, so I mean, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please do.
You may approach the bench.
Yeah.
So the darker color would go with the
Oh,
darker
okay. All
large
right.
format.
Okay.
Yes, those are 12-inch by 24-inch. And the lighter color here, like you know,
Okay.
something that would go with the lighter. And then this is just you know, a standard natural Portland cement, you know, non-pigmented mortar that
Okay.
would go with the brick.
All right.
And I think there was a question on mortar joint size. I believe you dimension those on the wall sections.
Brick unit size.
Yeah, we're talking standard brick
Yeah,
size.
standard brick size.
Okay.
Fantastic. Standard running bond.
Yes. Yep.
Would you consider a mortar that matches the brick in color?
I think we looked at options. We felt like going with that mortar meant more of a historic feel, and that's why we decided to go with that.
Yeah, I was going to say the other way around. Usually I see a lot of buildings around here with a red mortar that matches the brick, but you know, I think it's worth talking about a bit.
I have no concerns with the lighter mortar color. Just, I don't know what you guys feel.
And I think we like the mortar standing out a little
We
bit.
do.
We didn't
We
want
do.
just it to read as a flat
Yeah.
facade.
Okay.
So.
Got great feedback from Hilton
Yeah.
Sure.
on
Okay.
these choices.
So that was Hilton's preference too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
Okay.
really were very happy.
Let's talk about EFS. You guys looked at other alternatives for
We
us?
have.
Yeah, we've studied some other materials. You know, I think one of the big drivers comes down to cost and making this a viable project. We would not, especially on the Third Street facade, we would not consider EFS, down at the ground level, but we felt like where we're looking to place it on the building, it does give you a panelized look that you could get with fiber cement or an aluminum panel, but at the cost point that is within our budget and where we're at from a construction cost standpoint. And I think we looked at traditional stucco as well, but the insulation factors that you get with EFS, as well as the ability to create that panelized look, is why we are considering that over just traditional stucco.
Have you looked into metal panel or fiber cement?
We have, yeah, that
Oh,
they're a premium, cost compared to
Significant
the
premium.
price point of where we're at with the EFS.
I don't, your previous applicant said it well, you have to stay on budget or something doesn't get done. I had to write down that quote, but I'm not looking to, we are clearly at high, not looking to do anything but a fabulous project here. Hilton allows EFS, does not have an issue with EFS above services where it can be, I think, touched by a guest
Yeah, so
or
above an area
within
where-
reach of a
right,
guest.
right.
They've been very complimentary about the facade. There is a significant premium in this volatile environment. We feel we're going to get a great result, a great maintenance result. We know this material, it's going to do really well, and just don't see a need to depart from that.
So is you're looking at Drive It as the manufacturer?
Yes.
First I was going to say, overall, I'm just really impressed with all the materials you presented to us with, all the cast stone and the brick looks great. This puts us in a difficult situation because I don't know if we've ever approved EFS on any projects here in our district. Have we?
We approve EFS on 115, 117 4th Street on the upper level.
You're talking about like,
The Marshall.
I think it's defensible above
At what
standard
height
contact.
would the EFS start?
So on the Third Street facade,
60
it's
feet.
60 feet. On the Greenway facade, most of it is at 60 feet, but we do have a couple strips that come down to that second floor level of 18 feet.
Well, I'm trying to find a way that we can justify this so future applicants that come before us say, well, hey, you allowed this on this project, and I could see, saying, well, yeah, you're above 60 feet, and that seems a little bit more reasonable. Mike, I think on the Marshall, I thought we were only doing it on the sides of the building, though, so.
I just thought you meant EFS in general.
Yeah.
So I didn't, you know what I mean? I thought I remember approving it at some point on
Yeah.
that building. I don't know if it's on the sides or on the front, but
So, I don't know if, maybe if we're gonna, maybe one possibility for this project is I'm just seeing on the south elevation where you're coming down to just above the first floor, it looks like.
Yes, on
That's correct.
on those strips, yes, we are.
Is so the lighter gray, is that what you're doing in between the windows?
Yes. Yep. So, we looked in those areas. We originally looked at, some curtain wall glass systems that would be that full height there. But again, cost, coming into play. So, the thought was introducing a lighter color there just to, make that facade a little more interesting, break up that section.
So two things I'm wondering about. One, would you consider, doing brick up to the same height as what's adjacent, so that you could keep the ephes at a similar height all the way around. And then the second thing I'm wondering about is, I know there's a much smoother finish. Like I think, would you consider doing the smoothest finish available on the Drive It rather than, I think this one's, what's this one called?
That one, sand pebble maybe.
Yeah, I think there's a finer one.
There,
so,
there is, yes.
I'm just wondering if, and I'll know if there's a cost difference on that, but, I'm wondering if you'd consider those two things.
I know we did look at the less textured finish, Tony, and we felt like we liked the look of that just because it was closer to a traditional stucco finish. But I don't know. I don't want to put words in Tony's mouth.
No, I think all the materials felt like they came together with this, and we feel pretty strongly that we've got a really solid elevation here. We brought the brick up. I mean, I'll be honest, for the hotel's operation and for what Hilton would allow, we wouldn't need to have nearly this much brick on that south elevation. We'd be fine having very little brick there.
Mhm.
And I think it'd still be a great property and a great look. In deference to what we're doing, we're showing you what we have here. So we feel pretty good about this, and I just really need a decision or a decision, however you want to you want to take that, and hopefully we can just keep moving.
Okay, have we hit everything that you're looking
I
for?
think
decisions
Yes,
on?
yeah.
that hit just about.
Yeah, those were the 3 items that we were hoping to get a recommendation of approval on. So-
I was just specifically curious about the treatment to the non-spandrel glass. I'm not familiar with the term they were using, and we just need to make sure that whatever treatment the glass receives, it doesn't contradict the guidelines, which state it has to be non-tinted, non-reflective.
So detail 2 on A401, Jeff, indicates clear glass.
Right.
Yeah.
So that our expectation is that it's clear, untinted glass.
There's
Exactly.
something-
Yeah. So I think you, Jeff, your question was maybe on the SunGuard SNX 6257. So that's the glass type. It is a low-E glass. We would be looking at it, and we'll confirm that crystal gray is a clear color. I mean, I think one of the things we were, at least when we had talked, between the last 2 meetings, we were going to bring a sample of the glass in for you to look at as a part of our next meeting,
Okay.
along with the windows, a sample of the windows as well.
So one more question about the ephes. Would you consider taking another look at the way you're detailing it and perhaps articulating a head and sill at the windows that are similar to what's detailed at the brick areas?
We could look at it. I mean, would you see that being a different color to the main ephes color?
Yeah, I mean, maybe if your
Like the
main
lighter-
ephes is dark, you
Yep.
use the lighter.
I mean, we can study it. I don't know, Tony.
I just don't. We've got to keep moving.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Right.
So what
I mean,
So I'm sorry, Todd, are you suggesting like a cast stone head and sill?
I'm suggesting the articulation that emulates a cast stone head and
right, so
sill.
some
Fine,
thicker,
yeah, I
some
think
thicker
thicker-
insulation that gives you the appearance of the.
Are your head and sill details on the brick portions, or is the cast stone proud of the brick surface?
I have to look at that. I believe it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. If you look at detail 9 on it,
right.
It is.
It's got an overhang. So
Right.
yeah, maybe you add another
Right.
half inch of foam there to emulate that articulation. I don't know how I
I'm not sure how I feel
Yeah,
that
no.
would look. I'm not that comfortable.
Yeah.
Are we seeing all the louvers that you're gonna need? Are
Yes.
they all shown?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I should say with the one caveat, if you look at the south elevation, at column line 7, so there's a large area of brick that is just blank next to a row of windows going down, and you see some louvers there. We would potentially have maybe another row of louvers next to that for ventilation, for the exhaust system from the guest rooms to the bathroom exhaust. We're looking at potentially venting that out the side there with another louver at each floor or every 2 floor. It depends. We're still working through the design of that, but it probably would be every floor. But it would be a similar size louver to what you'd see there. So you'd have 2 louvers next to each other. But other than that, yes, I believe we are showing all the louvers that we would anticipate right now.
I had also requested clarification. There's additional horizontal bands occasionally on the facade.
Yeah,
And it wasn't clear to me if they are a delineation in the brick or if they are yet again some kind of a cast.
They're
Those are-
indicated, Jeff, on detail 9 on A303 as a cast stone band that is 5 inches in height at each floor line.
Okay.
Yep.
Correct.
Very good.
Did we already approve the window system at the room levels? No?
No, so that would be an item we plan to come back to.
Okay.
And I know you guys had requested to see potential sample of that Windows
Yeah.
system. So, yep,
Yeah, and usually we see a sample of the glass too.
exactly. And that would be, we're planning to use the same glass there that we would use in the storefront system. So,
So the 3 things were height, ephes, and windows?
Yeah, it's on this letter.
Oh.
Yeah.
that's storefront. Yep,
Right,
that
yeah, because you just said about the
the
windows.
storefront treatment along 3rd Street.
So in order to walk out of here with an approval for these items tonight, would you consider reducing the height of your parapet on the stair towers to 94 feet?
What effects would that have? Can you?
I mean, I think honestly the biggest effect that would have would be just the area that we have for signage at the car. Are you suggesting we would bring the corner element down to match that height as well?
Yes.
Okay. So we would lose, almost a foot for signage there.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily has to change what you're showing in the rendering.
Yeah, I mean,
How does that affect the signage?
I hate to say yes without, studying it and that exact height of the signage, but
Just lose the top band, like the top
Yeah,
band.
but it's not even. It's,
I'm not
it's a,
even,
it's a,
yeah.
it's a
It's not-
small,
Like half of it.
not even.
Yeah.
And,
I think that band's at least 3.5 feet.
Yeah,
Okay.
and like I think this is like 3 times bigger than
Right.
what they're really using, so I'm not sure it would affect anything.
We can just
I mean, honestly, I think all the parapets can come down a little.
Yeah, again, I'm not concerned about the parapets that are internal on that rooftop bar form because you will not see them from the street level.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll be honest, the reason we're showing, the parapets at this point may be a little higher than where we land on,
Mhm.
but, we wanted to give ourselves a little bit of
Some
wiggle
wiggle
room
room.
to work
Yeah,
with,
I
right? As
understand.
we're
I
we're
understand
not
that.
fully through that design. So
Yeah. Well, so I guess in approving EFS tonight, I think the reasoning I could see is, number one, I think this really is becomes a non-contributing building, right, Jeff? No, so that's number one. Number two, the EFS is much higher than most normal buildings we have in our district. So, I think those would be, the arguments for granting them that.
I could support that.
From an aesthetic standpoint, it resembles stucco.
Correct.
Correct. And you're gonna be high enough up that you're not.
Yeah.
You can't touch it or noticeable difference.
Mhm. The only thing I'm still not clear on is the treatment of the glass. So we talked about, maybe doing the applique on the interior side. I'm guessing though you have to apply studs and drywall on the interior side too. So I don't know if you're able to.
Yeah, as soon as we kind of landed on that, I realized that that's somewhat problematic
right.
from a maintenance, and
Yeah. I think,
you have
that's
to be
why
pretty happy with what you're installing.
that's why we were looking at an exterior application because, I think we've talked about the possibility of changing that out,
Right.
from time to time.
Working
So,
with-
if we put it on the interior side and then, we do need to, especially in the kitchen area. I mean, we've got a cooler up against it at one area. I think the abilities to,
It could be an insert sort of.
What is the storefront interior or exterior glazed, right? Because you need to change it. You could pop the glazing out, change it, and then reinstall it.
Yeah, which sounds like quite a job.
It really
Yeah.
does.
It
Yeah.
does.
yeah,
I mean, this might be just another one of those things where, due to the circumstances, we want to grant them, this direction. I just think it's an unusual case. So maybe, this might be the one and only case where we say, yeah, exterior applied is okay.
Yeah, I think we need to be assured that, if it got damaged or vandalized, you'd replace it. And I would think you would want to anyway, because you don't want your property looking.
You can be sure of that.
Okay.
You can
I think-
be
I think-
assured of that.
Hilton would be all over that.
Absolutely.
What's that?
Hilton would be all over
Yeah,
that. Those
right.
standards are very
Thanks.
exacting.
If there isn't any other questions or discussion items, I would like to make a motion if we're ready.
Go for it.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve this submission for, sorry, I'm looking for the address.
1436, right?
1436 West 3rd Street,
14-36.
14-36 West 3rd Street for the Tempo Hotel by Hilton, based on the following items. On the parapet heights at the stair towers, we're going to reduce them by 1 foot.
94 feet.
94
actually.
feet.
So
And that
it will
includes
be
the corner.
94 feet maximum, including the cast stone coping. In terms of finishes, we're approving tonight the thin brick selection, the cast stone selection.
it's not a thin brick, but
Yeah, it's
it's
4 inch.
4-inch standard brick.
veneer.
Thanks for
Yeah.
okay. The brick selection, the EFS, and we're approving the EFS based on the height of it being installed, where it's predominantly 60 feet above grade. And we are also approving it based on I think based on that it's a non-contributing building for this particular application. At the base of the building, we are approving the spandrel glass with vinyl application on the exterior, again, because it's an unusual circumstance where the glass is not easily accessible from the interior side. With all glass, again, we're expecting that next time you'll come with an actual sample, glasses to be clear. And we understand that it's a low E coating and meets energy code requirements. Glass will be center glazed. I think that's everything I have.
You need to include the mortar.
Thank you. We are approving the mortar samples as presented.
Along with the large format masonry. And I'd like to just clarify, Gary, that I think that the areas where we're applying the graphics, that should be spandrel glass indeed and not
Yes.
clear glass, right? So if the graphics go away, you can't see through that.
Exactly.
that
Right,
glass. Yeah. Okay.
Right, right. And I think we understood that you're coordinating graphics with Arts Quest, you were saying?
Yes, the ownership team has had some conversations with them already.
Okay.
And then I haven't seen the samples yet, so I will take pictures tonight before the.
Okay.
Was there anything about the cast stone details? We haven't mentioned that in the motion.
Well, so the cast stone details are as presented in the drawings, but
Profiles as detailed on the drawings.
yeah.
And just to clarify, the color of that would be the lighter
Yes, that
of
would be
these two
the
samples.
lighter
Yeah.
of the.
Well,
two
thanks.
samples.
Thanks
Yep.
for asking about that.
And we also, part of the motion should be that the interior parapets on the rooftop bar element are permitted to 100 feet.
Look, given
Okay.
16 feet
I just want to
away
capture, we
from.
want to say it
Yeah,
has
and-
to be 16 feet from.
Yeah, and 16 feet
Minimum of 16 feet.
minimum
Okay.
back from the Third Street facade.
So,
So I'm going to say one thing. Well, before I finish the motion, I think for cast stone, for your cast stone copings and sills and heads, I think this is too bright. I think you want something that's a little warmer that goes with the brick and with your mortar sample. I'm wondering if you could bring a sample next time.
sure, we could find. I mean, we'll look at it. We could probably find something that matches the mortar color of the brick or in between that and the.
I think Gary makes a good point because visually on your elevations, the cast stone elements are slightly darker than the
Yep.
lightest tone of the.
Yeah, I mean, I think the brighter cast stone panels at the base of the building are probably okay.
Yeah, they're nice. And I think some more.
Yeah, I don't
contrast there.
disagree with a
Yeah.
little contrast there.
Yeah,
would
that
be
would be
nice.
really
So,
nice. So.
I suggest perhaps then they do something similar to the previous one and submit so that Mike, I, and Gary can take a look rather than postponing it till the next submittal.
Okay.
If you could submit that, if you could work that in the motion, please,
Okay, and
subject to.
So
So-
the color of the cast stone elements will be submitted to the historic officer, Gary, and the code official for review and approval.
prior to our next meeting.
Yes.
What element are we speaking?
The
Cast stone.
cast stone banding.
Just the banding.
Just and
Well,
the
sills and-
the sills, the
I'm
heads,
assuming
it's
you're
all
just
the
going to
same.
pick
It's
one
all the
color
same
for all
color.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
We added measurements for the setback and height. We want to say, on the east elevation, the ephes starts at a minimum of 60 feet. And then on the south elevation, at a minimum of 18 feet.
Yeah, I mean, or maybe I think it's probably safe to say as presented in the
Or as
drawings,
presented.
That's fine.
right?
So
I prefer
would-
that.
I kind of agree with Mike that we should say on the south elevation, the primary bottom of ephes is 60 feet with select areas at 18 feet as depicted on the elevations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know
that's
what?
fair.
I take it back. You're right.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
if this comes up at a later,
Yep.
for a different
Yep.
building,
The majority of the ephes is above 60 feet.
So from
As
resolution-
depicted on the
I'm sorry,
elevation.
Jeff.
No, it's okay. No, no
Go
problem. I'm glad for the clarification. I'm
Uh-huh.
balancing a couple things. If you could just kind of walk me through that, please.
Walk you through the ephes?
Yes, please. One reasoning, non-contributing building. I've got that already.
Yeah. So the other reason we are permitting it is that the primary bottom of ephes elevation is 60 feet above the street level on the northern facade. And on the southern facade, the primary bottom of ephes elevation is 60 feet with select areas that
Well, really, oh, yeah, I guess there's.
that drop down to 18 feet
All right. Thank you.
as depicted on the elevations.
So that was a team effort motion there, and hopefully it doesn't need a team effort second.
Yeah, well, once Jeff's done,
Okay,
I will second it.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
John, we're good with all that. As
I mean,
depicted
that
on the
matches what-
elevation, I think. Thank you for including that, gentlemen. Thank you.
all right, so we'll put it to a vote. Craig Evans,
Hi.
Desiree.
Aye.
Aye from me, Todd,
Aye.
and Mike.
Hi.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too. It's a
Great project.
great, yeah,
Yep.
certainly a
Thank
great
you.
project.
Appreciate it.
And with that, can we have a motion to approve meeting minutes?
Make a motion to the minutes.
Second on that?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the old news.
No news, no business.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question on the old Holy Infancy School.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is there anything going on there that we need to approve or have reviewed?
We did a review for the exterior of that building.
sound the
as
wrong
part of
place.
that project, and it came back that they weren't
Sure
going to
they figured
change
it out.
anything. I think we had some panel stuff on the side maybe, but we approved.
The reason I asked is I've been by a couple of times and there are windows left open all the time there, which
Yeah,
suggests some of the things that I've seen on Broadhead with windows left open and buildings left to deteriorate. And I was just hoping that there was a little bit more care with what was going on with.
yeah.
Yeah, they've come into my office. They were looking for permits for demolition, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're starting to clean out that building at.
Okay. Well, I just, I saw the windows open and nothing else really visible. And so I was a little concerned about, what was happening and whether or not there was any activity that we were part of as far as reviewing.
No, not yet. If they're going to change anything on the exterior.
Mike, I know it's the same, I guess, same developer or owner that's also doing the building on Third Street. And
Oh, thanks.
not Third, on New Street. I was just wondering, feels like it's been a long time. Is that going anywhere?
Which one now? Third Street?
Yeah, that's the tower.
Which one now?
Are we live? We're still live.
We're still live.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I don't think this needs to be captured, but,
So I do